Now usually, I'll get at least one documentary in the bunch that I can be a bit more lighthearted with, make a few jokes even, break the tension, clear the mind. I don't foresee that here, and I apologize, but you really only have yourselves to blame, YouTube comment section. Would you look at that? All you. All your ideas. All your ideas. So for this video, I really only got one piece of good news, and that's gonna be right now. And that is my new drop with Gamer Subs, baby! Gamer Subs are absolute homies, and they ran it back with me for another drop this year. It is the As Above, So Below collection inspired by one of my favorite horror movies. Cup, glow-in-the-dark shirt, coaster. That was a good throw. Talk about it. Link below, code MistaGG gets you 10% off. Now then, let's get ready to be depressed! I watched 4 disturbing documentaries. They are The Cove, I Was a Child Bride, The Untold Story, Amber, the Girl Behind the Alert, and Chickenhawk. And for the first time ever, I have no clue how to organize these. Believe it or not, there usually is a method to my madness. So for this one, I'm banking my retention rate on just drawing cards. Each one's assigned a doc. This one's first. Hey, you want to hear pedophiles talk for 55 minutes? No. But I already got his tickets. What's wrong, baby? You've hardly touched your 55-minute pedophile documentary. A couple episodes back, I reviewed Pervert Park, discussing the rehabilitation of sex offenders, their transition back into society, a very difficult conversation to have, let alone begin. This is not like that at all. We discuss NAMBLA in this doc. Formed in 1979, it is a support group for men who are sexually attracted to boys. And when I say support group, I don't mean therapy or counseling. I mean support in terms of like people cheering in the stands. Full-on encouragement. Be proud! This is the North American Man-Boy Love Association, a group of esteemed gentlemen that I'd like to speak to via steamroller. Just kidding, that's a joke. These guys are very unapologetic in what they think. One of them, Leyland, just straight up admits to crimes and talks about it all so fondly. The shooter's been in prison twice and should still be there. He's just so eager to talk about all of this. He's full out delusional in the way he speaks of his interactions with young boys. Saying shit like, yeah, that 12-year-old at the playground was coming on to me because he kept adjusting his shirt. Steamroller was invented in the late 1800s, if you were curious. And just in case you're somehow not sold on him being delusional, we see him talk to a boy outside of a store. We watch the interaction. The boy shows him some payphone trick and then gets back on his bike to leave. But Leyland walks away from it and starts speaking in poetry about the whole thing. Like the boy loved that Leyland appreciated him for who he truly was. That kid's never gonna think of this interaction ever again in his life.
I would say that he was in bloom, and that's it. The flower is responding to warmth.
Leyland goes out of his way to pick up kids and give them rides. He filmed CP in India and went to prison for 5 years. This guy's the fucking worst. The doc's kind of all over the place. These dorks joined the gay and lesbian march on Washington in 1993, waving the NAMBLA flag, saying shit like,
If anybody looks at them and looks at us, then they'd have to say, well, it's all part of the rainbow.
The fuck it is. The nerve of these guys. Being gay is okay. Also, they interview a bunch of passerbys for their opinion on their inclusion, and some try to offer some understanding with hesitancy, and others just make it very clear. They're not with us. Do not lump us in together. Leyland even begins to speak to this woman like he's gonna argue his side, and she shuts him down immediately, thank God. You think I want to hear this smug-faced idiot speak more than he already does in the whole doc? These pedophiles have terrible talking points and say a bunch of stupid shit. Exhibit A. NAMBLA has a bulletin, which is a paid subscription magazine type bit that I can only assume is the worst thing in the world. We're actually shown photos from some of the pages, and the best and worst way I can describe it is, it's as close as they can get to legally distributed CP. Steam? Say it with me now. Roller. Good job. Steamroller is actually an outdated term because rollers have been powered by steam engines for quite some time. The more you know. This guy who works for NAMBLA says he has substituted being with boys by working with NAMBLA. This is his nicotine gum, to work very closely every day with nicotine. He says he would never actually touch a boy because he's a public figure. He can't be caught doing those types of things. Which, with all due respect, dog, you're the editor of the NAMBLA bulletin. I'm not even sure LinkedIn accepts that. I'm a public figure. No, you have a job. I don't even know if you get paid for this shit. I don't know if you're volunteering your time. Exhibit B. Peter Griffin. Exhibit C. This guy is genuinely off his rocker. The rocker's in another continent. Abandoned. Cobwebs. He says, And this is what he says, that the homosexual revolution has hit a peak and is now starting to dwindle because they're all dying of AIDS and they can't reproduce children, insinuating there will be less and less people in the new generations to fight the fight. His solution, we're gonna need to recruit children for the new generation.
And the best way of recruiting children is to have them broken in, as it were, by child molesters.
This released in 1994, so I'm going to safely assume this guy's dead. And yeah, I will cheers to that. It's not only the most outrageous statement, perhaps in this series, it's also just kind of stupid. They can't reproduce? Numbnuts. Where exactly do you think gay people come from? Well, no, the gays can't reproduce? We're gonna run out of gays. I'll end on this story. It's a story of a teacher who got fired because of his association in support of NAMBLA. He felt he was discriminated against because of his thoughts and private doings, and that if we just started doing that, then no one would be available to work. Because deep down, we're all documented leaders in pedophile organizations. Or something like that. I'm not really sure about his point. I would like to make my stance very clear here. Fire him 10 times out of 10. If your thought crimes directly align with your job, I feel like there's something to talk about. He literally tells us, quote, I like teaching because I like boys. But he does say that liking boys doesn't mean you want to have sex with them. It's much broader than that. I don't know what the fuck that means, but I think we can wrap this one up, Judge. They interview some of the students for their opinions. Some of them are on the fence saying shit like, well, we never know if other teachers are like KKK members, so we don't know their past, so just because we know about one's, which like, sure. I don't know if Mr. Jensen is Klan, but if we found his hood, maybe we should let him go. Fun fact, Mr. Melzer, our ex-teacher here, was dismissed in court and was not heard out for an appeal. Another cheers? Sure. I hate and disagree with everything these people say, so I could piss and moan for another 20 minutes, but I care about my sanity, believe it or not. Is this disturbing? Yes! Leyland gets graphic in what he's done to children that he describes as their decision. It was his idea. The 10-year-old There's no lesson to be had here. The only quasi-discussion brought up is Mr. Melzer's firing and I guess the inclusion of NAMBLA at the Gay and Lesbian March, which should be just open and shut. It's just an inside look at these sickos, and it sucks. Is it something to hear these guys say the things they say? Sure, but to me, I don't care to ever watch this again. It starts to drag its feet as we go on. It's a bit fucking boring. I'm done with this one. Next doc. This video is sponsored by NordVPN. I recently got an email from a rather large company that wanted to work with me. Now, I'm no fool, but I might read an email a bit too fast sometimes. Luckily, after rereading that they wanted me to give them a password for their partnership site, I got out of Dodge. And then also noticed everything else wrong with the email. They'll probably take that password I give them and then use credential stuffing to see if that password is used on other sites. Nord's threat protection feature is a great idea for these moments, and their dark web monitor can also help you get alerted when a database you use has been compromised. Encrypt your data and mask your IP on up to 6 of your devices when needed. Nord's got a 30-day money-back guarantee. You can try it for yourself. When you use my link, you will get a huge discount on a 2-year plan plus 4 additional bonus months. Get it at nordvpn.com/MrGG. That's nordvpn.com/MrGG. Or click the link in the description below. And thank you, NordVPN, for sponsoring the channel as you do. You ever become so accustomed to something that it never even crossed your mind as to how it came to be? That has scared the shit out of me countless times. If you're in bed, jump scare. If you're in a crowd of people, you think we're finally going nuke for nuke. Then you check it and it's like flash flood warning. And you're like, those don't exist. That is a sound you will most likely hear with the modern day Amber Alert, a system that came to be because of a little girl named Amber. That's what this doc's all about. So, you're gonna need some background. Donna became pregnant at 18, and the father, Richard, was 34. A drunk and abusive. Amber was born, and 4 years later, her brother Ricky was born. With the police being repeatedly called to their residence, they let Donna know that the next time they'd be forced to come down there, they would take the kids out of there with them. Donna decides to leave Richard, hiding in her car for days and a woman's shelter for weeks, which helps set her up in an apartment. Now, usually in these types of stories, our B-roll is always some fuzzy, scattered home videos and mostly photos. But this situation is awfully unique. Pam Curry wanted to document a segment about how women get off welfare, and found the perfect candidate in Donna, who was willing to share her story. Pam spent a bunch of time with the family and recorded everything, and didn't stop recording even after Amber's abduction. On January 13th, 1996, Donna's at her parents' house and Amber and Ricky go for a bike ride around the neighborhood. Amber had just celebrated her 9th birthday 2 months prior. They deviate from their usual route, getting closer to the main road, riding around in a nearby lot. Ricky urges them to go back and he heads out first, with Amber saying she'll be right behind him. But after getting closer to his grandparents' house, he realizes Amber's not behind him at all, and he alerts his grandfather right away, only to have them drive down there and only see Amber's bike on the ground. There are no street cameras or nearby businesses that caught any footage. Even with being right by a busy road, the only real lead they have to work off of is the eyes and ears of 78-year-old Jimmy Kevill. I don't know if maybe Myers are on his level already, but this cop in the doc, when giving us Jimmy's description of the guy who abducted Amber, describes him
as a non-African American male.
Which, there's gotta be a better word there. I've never heard that term used before. Have you? We've been tossing that one around? What'd he look like? Well, he wasn't black. So what'd he look like? He wasn't short, didn't have brown hair, his car wasn't red. Like, I get we're technically narrowing down the suspect with that, but there's gotta be better descriptors at hand, right? Right? Jimmy calls police and tells them a guy in a black pickup truck grabbed the girl as he heard screaming. And that's really all they have to go off of at the time. So they have to move fast. These statistics told to us were that in 74% of child abduction cases, the victim would be murdered in the first 3 hours. And you start to immediately see how stunted authorities and families were to deal with this type of thing. The news outlets were notified an hour later, which they came out in droves, but they still had to wait for the evening news slot to even break the news, which after it eventually did, the calls and tips started to come in, but we already lost so much precious time. They also tell us that less than 1% of child abduction cases are complete strangers. So now let's start with perhaps the most obvious suspect, Richard, the father. Donna did call him as soon as she got the news, and he showed up right away. He was cooperative with police, spoke to the news, and although I don't love his responses to certain things...
You know, I may have yelled. I may have yelled in the past, but my dad yelled at me, and he yelled at my mom. And that's two people trying to work something out. Nowadays standards, an argument is violence, and that's not, to me, that's not true.
I think violence is still violence, even if it happens during an argument. It doesn't matter. He's cleared as a suspect after his story of what he did that day seems to check out, along with obtaining surveillance footage of him at a storage unit around the time of the abduction. I still had my eyebrow furled, but my next guess was Richard's friend, Mike Thompson. They live together, and he drives a black pickup truck. But he was also cooperative, spoke to the news, and was cleared after he was verified to have been dropping off a package 30 to 45 minutes away from the lot at the time of the abduction. Now it becomes difficult because we're not introduced to every family, friend, foe. We have a small crowd to work with. Although one somewhat odd detail is that Amber was kidnapped the day they finally finished the welfare doc that Pam Curry had been working on. It was set to air next week. And naturally, once police realized Pam Curry and crew had been in close contact with the family for the past few months, they're questioned as well. They don't see anything there to point the finger at them, so they're also cleared. At this point, they think this must be the rare case where it was a complete stranger. So they start contacting local registered sex offenders to see, hey, what have you guys been up to? And every lead and tip is going nowhere. 4 days after the abduction, Stuart is walking his dog in his apartment complex, and they start to bark towards a nearby creek during a storm. And he calls the police after he realizes there's a body floating in the creek. Police get there, and it's eventually confirmed that it's Amber. This is a gated apartment complex, so every resident and worker is questioned, and that goes nowhere. Turns out the gate to the apartment complex had been broken, so in reality, anybody could have driven in, dumped the body, and left. But you would assume that this person already had that information and didn't just blindly venture out. After the autopsy, we're told that Amber's neck was slit. They saw no signs of struggle, defense, captivity, sexual assault. Police still have no leads, and the investigation is starting to look bleak. Until 10 days later, a woman calls and tells police that she saw the whole thing, knows the exact type of truck, even is able to help with some of the license plate. Police directly work with Ford and track down a truck that matches the description to a man living in Arlington. They confront him, speak with him, and they get nothing that convinces them that this is the guy. So they go back to the witness to get more testimony until they realize none of what she's saying is adding up. And she eventually admits that she doesn't actually know anything, and that she made it all up because she felt bad for Donna and just wanted to make her more hopeful. By giving her yet another false lead and wasting police hours on a random goose chase. What a fucking idiot. I'm honestly all for jailing that person, or at the very least giving them a substantial fine. I'm not kidding. Not trying to be funny right now. You're genuinely a bad person. Donna soon after becomes an advocate because she doesn't want this to happen again, and begins to attend many meetings. Keep in mind, 2.5 hours passed after Amber was abducted before the public was notified. So a woman named Diana Simone calls the radio to propose an idea for Arlington police and radio managers to immediately alert people when there has been a child abduction. On October 30th, 1996, a mother calls police after she says her babysitter had not returned home with her child. They call the chief and decide they're going to use the Amber plan. The radio mics go hot with the breaking news, the description of the vehicle, and in 30 minutes, they get the call from a man driving right behind her. The police pull her over, save the baby, and return her to her mother safely. Within weeks, other stations are calling how to set up this Amber Alert. In the year 2000, the National Center for Missing and Exploited Children make it national. 2003, President Bush signs the Protect Act of 2003 with Donna in attendance, honoring her. But unfortunately, even to this day, Amber's case remains unsolved. Police with files and files of over 7,000 leads over the years, which obviously all the changes made as a result of this case is a positive. It is fucking preposterous that a case that garnered so much attention at the time and over time still has resulted in 0 arrests. As far as the doc goes, I do think the doc meanders a bit. It can be a tad obnoxious in its presentation, but the story is important for sure. There's no denying that. The most disturbing part being that we may never find the piece of shit responsible for this, and that he's still walking around, a free man. Hopefully dead, but best case scenario, in severe pain, on the brink of death, for as long as his body decides to fight. Next doc. The Cove is a very well done doc. I never thought I'd watch someone gather the Avengers of activists to expose a dolphin slaughtering site, but here we are. There is an absurd amount of information in this documentary that I cannot and just will not fully convey to you. But if you are interested by the skinny that I drop on you, which sounds weird, I recommend just checking this one out for yourself, honestly, to get the full scope of everything. Now here's the skinny. I don't know why. Funny words. Taiji, Japan. A place that looks rather beautiful. Taking a lot of pride in their sea life. Look at all the dolphins. Look at this thing shaped like a dolphin. Look at that thing shaped like a dolphin. Guys like whales? We got him. All seems right until we meet Rick O'Barry, an animal rights activist that actually used to train dolphins, specifically for the show Flipper. Now Flipper was well before my time. I like Three's Company. It's completely unrelated, but the description reads, 2 children find adventure with their pet dolphin. I don't know why, I'm just surprised it's got 3 seasons. Like, I'm assuming there's obviously a family dynamic at play that fills some plot lines, because there's no way Flipper headlined 88 episodes, right? I digress. Rick says he spent 10 years building up this industry of dolphin captivity, and then 35 years trying to free them. So dolphins are very sensitive to sound. So what they do in Taiji is this fleet of boats bang on these poles dipped in the water to create this wall of sound to scare the dolphins into a herd. Then they seal them off. Dolphin trainers then show up to choose the ones they want for dolphinariums, which are usually bottlenose dolphins. The rest will be gone the next day. Now, it's not fully confirmed what happens exactly, but if you were curious, good luck. The cove off to the side is completely blocked off. Fenced off from every vantage point, guards constantly patrolling, boots on the ground to deter any onlookers, and once Rick O'Barry is in Taiji, he's met by undercover cops because, dog, we know why you're here. Just don't fucking touch anything. Let's quickly talk about the IWC, the International Whaling Commission, the global body for the conservation of whales. Now, dolphins don't really get the same type of protection, even though we're told that dolphins are whales. All in all though, we learned that the IWC is fucking useless. Every country present can hoot and holler, but you're never really gonna get anything done. But you still kinda wanna be there because it's recognized by the United Nations. Rick O'Barry teams up with Jim Clark after he tells him, I know what's really going on down there and I can prove it. But once again, Rick is public enemy #1 down there. We start by him driving and he sees a car behind him. He's like, yeah, no, they're trailing me already. I thought the guy was a little nutty. He's not. Later in the doc, they're being trailed by the chief of police himself. There's this guy they nicknamed Private Space because that's all he says in English, and his job is to just provoke them, get in their shots, and just be a damn nuisance. He wants somebody to hit him, so they have a great reason to get them the hell out of Taiji. Now, they do try going about it the correct way by applying for permits. They speak with them for 7 hours, and they come back with a big no. And they show them a map telling them where they are not allowed to go. And then the fellas ask to hold on to the map, just to be completely sure that they're not breaking any rules. Smart asses. The boys start gathering their team, getting a professional to whip up some fake rock props that can store hidden cameras, ex-military to help hide the hydrophones and cameras, a rock concert organizer to condense and bundle everything to travel effectively. 47 suitcases, by the way. I'm sure Taiji officials aren't raising any eyebrows. What are they bringing the fucking dolphins back? Military-grade thermal cameras, a helicopter, an unmanned drone. Brought on 2 world-class freedivers to plant the hydrophones to hear the dolphins. Did I mention the 47 suitcases? That's allowed? Do they require their own plane? Did they ask about lithium batteries 47 times? They run one little practice run in the night, and wouldn't you know it, Rick's questioned again, asking what he was doing at midnight. He tells him, "Oh, I'm asleep at midnight." Yeah, me? Honk shoeing. As soon as it hits midnight. They know he's up to something, but they have to catch him in the act. And finally, the full operation goes underway. Without a hitch, everything's planted, the cameras are rolling, and the mics are hot. They go retrieve all the cameras, they get everything back, and that's when they show us. We hear the dolphins making panicked noises as we watch exactly what Rick predicted was happening. The slaughtering of dolphins left and right for a couple bucks, as the lagoon turns completely red. They had actually tried paying the fishermen to not do this, trying to bargain with them. Whatever money they would get for the dead dolphins, they would pay them more. But they refused because they considered this pest control, as the government had told them that whales and dolphins were eating too much fish, which would directly affect the fishermen's livelihood. By the way, this entire time they've been interviewing the deputy of fisheries for Japan, who's obviously not taking super kindly to their accusations and questions, but he's being professional. He starts talking about a very humane way that the fishermen work with a specific made knife that will kill the animals instantly. And then they kind of walk him into this one. Okay, so if they were killed using anything other than this method, would that be considered cruel? But the deputy doesn't want to bother talking hypotheticals, so he's like, get out of here. So Jim just pulls out his phone and he shows him the video they got.
When and where did you take this?
And we end up with Rick strapping up a TV on his chest, playing the videos, walking directly into the IWC, and eventually getting escorted out. And like I said, the rabbit hole is much deeper than this, discussing the deceitful marketing tactics of dolphin meat, trying to shovel it into schools even with the dangers of high levels of mercury, the Japanese government and agencies going to small bankrupt nations, offering financial support or whatever they can offer to join the IWC and openly support Japan. It's like bodying viewers. Is this disturbing? I've already discussed that animals are a bit of a soft spot for me, so yeah, I don't love watching this or having one of the free divers describe a baby dolphin that got away but is bleeding out and eventually goes under. It is disturbing, but it draws far more interest out of me than anything. I don't just sit in the discomfort, unlike something like Africa Audio, where I'm just watching the animals die and nothing else. I think it's a really solid watch and easily my favorite of today's bunch. Next doc. Okay, so let me say this up front. This one is very much a made-for-TV documentary. I say that in a slightly insulting manner, and I mean that in a slightly insulting manner. But that's literally what it is. It's part of a series from 2019 titled The Untold Story, with these random mini documentaries. Well, this was 83 minutes, but I'm saying that because the presentation can fall victim to the whooshy vine boom editing style, overbearing music. It's not a huge deal, but I do want to say that up front because that is not my favorite type of presentation. I Was a Child Bride, The Untold Story is a doc where we speak with Frady Reese, the founder and director of Unchained at Last, an organization dedicated to ending forced marriage and child marriage in the US. We hear about 4 different women's stories while interviewer Elizabeth Vargas helps guide a handful of the conversation. And through these stories, the sheer amount of people that let down these women, children at the time, is fucking depressing. For example, Sherry Johnson was married away at just 11 years old, which, the fact that you could even do that, why? There was a judge who saw a 20-year-old marrying an 11-year-old and signed off on it. And somehow the whole story is much worse. This is the worst story out of the bunch in my opinion. Viewer discretion advised. Sherry was raped by her church's deacon multiple times. Her mom and stepdad were ministers at that church, and she naturally went to her mother to tell her that the 18-year-old deacon at the time was messing with her. And her mom responded with, "The deacon wouldn't do that type of stuff." And she not only doesn't believe her own daughter, but she shames her. Sherry said that her mom referred to her as fast, her 9-year-old daughter. She literally told other members of the church to not believe her. It's so frustrating to even talk about, like, your own mom, your own fucking mother. One day her mom picks her up from school to take her to the doctor. Sherry does not know why, but when they're there, they get confirmation that she is 7 months pregnant. Child and Family Services come to the home, speak with her mom and with Sherry about who she thinks the father is. She tells them, and nothing comes from that somehow. Her mother says that Sherry is making her look bad. Her 9-year-old daughter is pregnant. Sherry doesn't even understand the concept that she's carrying a child, and her mom is worried about her reputation. Her mom doesn't want her to be there, so she sends Sherry away with a bishop to Miami to live with him his wife, and his secretary. How that was even an option that got on the fucking table, who knows? But on the drive there, the bishop pulls the car over and also rapes Sherry while she's 7 months pregnant. That bishop was the head of more than 30 churches. Eventually, her water breaks while she's living with them, and the secretary drops her off at the hospital. This 10-year-old gets dumped at the hospital to give birth, and apparently, nobody there asked her where her parents are, how she got pregnant, who the father is, nothing. And Sherry has her first child at just 10 years old. The bishop starts to ask Sherry who was the person that was messing with her. She tells him it was a deacon, so the bishop takes her back to Tampa and tells her mom that these two need to get married. Now, something they'll mention in the doc is that a marriage license can often be used as a get-out-of-jail-free card in these situations. Because if the deacon gets caught up, he's going to prison, presumably. But if they're able to marry before any hot water comes his way, well, then it gets a little tricky on what you can really do there, because now that's a husband and wife. Something wrong here, somehow. But thankfully, the judge in their local county would not sign off on this marriage. So they just decided to go a county over to Pinellas County, and that one did approve it. And Sherry would be forced to marry her rapist after church one day, at the age of 11. And she had a child every year after, as the deacon would just disappear and reappear, the deacon eventually going to jail for not paying child support and nothing else, and Sherry finding legal support to help her finally get divorced at 17 with her 6 children. Sherry has since become an activist to try and end child marriages in America, speaking out, telling her story. She's a very proud mother, grandmother, great-grandmother, and in 2018, she was present, acknowledged, and the bill to prevent marriages under the age of 18 was passed. Now, some of you may be hearing this and having the thought, the crazy thought, why wasn't this a thing already? What the hell is even the opposition to this? How is this up for debate? What are the arguments here? Well, I'll show you 2 sides of it. David Bates, a former state representative of New Hampshire, speaks with Elizabeth, and I'm going to directly quote some of his thoughts. Quote, "It would just be unconscionable for us to look at a 17-year-old in the face and say, you're old enough to enlist in the military and possibly put your life on the line for your country, but you're too young and immature to get married." Unquote. Elizabeth responds, stating that that situation seems like a rarity. The majority of child marriages are young girls being married to older men, and delivers statistics on how child brides are 3 times more likely to be abused and the divorce rate is higher. David quickly empathizes and responds with, quote, "One person's failure is not a justification to restrict another person's liberties." Unquote. Now, just so you know, these child brides are restricted from seeking so many options for help because they're a minor. So walk with me here. These women talk about having their marriages signed off on. Sherry gave birth alone at 10 years old, and no one sounded the alarm. But when they are actively seeking help, they are turned away because of their age. Donna here tried to go to a domestic violence shelter and was turned away because she wasn't 18. Too many liabilities there, apparently. They can't file for divorce because they're a minor. Struggle to get an attorney's attention because they're a minor. Dawn was pregnant at 13, moved out with her kids at 16 to get away from her abuser. Her own stepmother writing a letter to the courts to return those kids to their father. She shouldn't have them. The 16-year-old can't take care of them, but the 13-year-old can get pregnant by that stepmom's 30-year-old friend that she herself assigned to take care of her stepdaughter. The 13-year-old can get married to the man that groomed her. But God forbid the 16-year-old wants a better life for her and her kids. Go fuck yourself. So David Bates talks about what they did in New Hampshire specifically. A little tweak to the law. Making a marriage certificate evidence of a minor being emancipated to erase a lot of those concerns like not being able to file for divorce. Which I think is a positive change, but the goal here is to prevent the minor from even marrying in the first place. David Bates leaves us with this quote. Quote, "I don't necessarily agree that it's the age written in some law book somewhere. That's not the source of the problem. The source of the problem is the family. All of the things that contribute to her getting into a situation like that. It's not what the law book says that causes that kind of a horror show." Unquote. Which, listen, he's technically right. You've already heard it in my examples. There's a theme of sick fuck and terrible family members combining for horrible outcomes. The marriage itself is not the root cause of the problems, but it still begs the question. Okay, but why the fuck can it even get there? I still haven't heard a good reason for the opposition. He basically gave me one. And I'm sorry, I don't give a single shit if I have to tell a 17-year-old they can't get married. Kick rocks. Hey David, per your example, I'm 17 and I enlisted in the military. I'm kind of jonesing though. Can I buy some cigs? No? Alright, I guess a beer will do. I can't drink either? But I'm on the front lines, you said... Guess I'll just travel and sightsee a bit. Let me just rent a car real quick. You're kidding. Not the best example on my end, but like the logic's kind of silly in your example, David. You get me? And I said I was going to show you two sides of it, right? David's was actually the good side. Get a load of this guy.
My mother was 16 when she married, and my dad was 30 years old, and they raised 11 children, and they were married over 50 years, and every one of them except my brother's a college graduate.
Well, if that isn't the American dream, I don't know what is. A 30-year-old man driving by the school and hitting on a 16-year-old at recess? I thought that only happened in fairy tales. That's also when they got married. Who knows how long they knew of each other beforehand. Listen, if you guys are currently a big happy family, great. Glad it worked out for you. You are the outlier, realize that. But then again, all you told us was that the majority of your siblings are college graduates. As if that's the marker of, so it was all worth it. No one harmed in the process, trust me. We're extremely happy. I would love others' opinions on the topic. Like what this guy said, and then another guy also says, yeah, I'm voting against it, man. I don't like it. It's just like, old people, listen, I love you. You're often very friendly and kind, and are the very few people unashamed to maintain regular human interactions and casual conversation in a very introverted, busy world. It's adorable. But these types of old people, rabbit clock. Even with legislation, we're told that there are loopholes to still marry at 17, and as of January 2019, only Delaware and New Jersey had completely banned child marriages. And according to the Unchained at Last website, more have been added to that list, but child marriage still remains legal in 34 states. Is it disturbing, distressing, and going to ruin your day? Yeah, how'd you know? I need a break. If you guys enjoyed this video, please leave a like. Subscribe because I have more content coming your way. Gamer subs drop live right now, baby. Limited time. The link is below. Code Mr. G 10% off. My patrons are great. They are on screen, and they get monthly exclusives that are late. And as always, I am Mr. Gigi, and I am out. Looks like a ghost hunting video. Oh, hello?